What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Well, it was an eventful weekend. Actually, I feel like I've kind of been on like a 4-day bender. Thursday, we had football practice. Theo Vaughn Thursday night. Everything that comes with the weekend, a Saturday scrimmage. We've got the transfer portal coming up. We're obviously in the throes of it with basketball. Big visitor coming in today. Transfer portal for football opens up on Wednesday. We're going to talk about all that. We'll talk a little bit of baseball with Kevin Bohannon, basketball with Connor Goodson. I want to talk about some of the things that we learned from the scrimmage. Just where things are headed. What are some of the needs with the transfer portal coming up? All that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. Yeah, it's been I don't know, this weekend was crazy. With Theo Vaughn, it was hilarious. There was like, I don't know, over 10,000 people in Bud Walton Arena. First time I'd ever been in that venue for something like that. So that was a lot of fun. He was hilarious. The other two comedians were all right too. Friday, I can't even remember what happened Friday. Saturday, I thought I was going to chill a little bit after the scrimmage. We ended up having people over yesterday. I was at a birthday party for a friend. Happy birthday. And watched the Masters, of course, all weekend, which was really exciting. It was fun. Like, I'm not like a Rory guy. I mean, I respect Rory because I think he does everything right, plays the game right, all that kind of stuff. And it was fun to see. It was fun to follow all the way up to the end. I thought he rushed that putt on 18, but obviously ended up winning in the playoffs. So congrats to Rory for the career Grand Slam. That was a lot of fun. Golf season coming up. One more week of football. Red-white game coming up on April 19th. Before we get all that, I want to mention to everybody that Hog Sports is still just $1 right now for your first month. That's 50% off for the entire year, or $1 for your first month. Two great ways to sign up. If you take the yearly option, it breaks down to just $103 a week, $448 a month, billed at just $59.70 for the entire year. No promo code or anything. Just go to Hog Sports. If you like this show, you like what I do on Drive Time, you like what I do on The Zone, you like Danny West content, Connor Goodson, Kevin Bohannon, support what we do. Support what we do at Hog Sports. Check us out for $1. The thing I like about the dollar deal is you sign up, you can check out everything that we bring to the table. It's about to get wild with the transfer portal and all that stuff. Check out what we do. You like what we do, you're going to stick around. You end up going on the regular plan, which is $9.95 a month. But with that, you also get Paramount Plus for free for as long as you're subscribed to Hog Sports. So that's a heck of a deal. That's a $100 annual value. Obviously, a lot of great stuff on Paramount Plus. If you followed the Masters, you saw all the different ways to view the Masters on Paramount Plus. So a lot of good stuff, a lot of good shows. Plus the whole Paramount movie catalog is on there too. So pretty great deal. Sign up at HawgSports.com. So let's talk about the scrimmage first. 101 plays. Things that stood out to me. Like, if you look at Taylon Green's stats, he was 15 to 21 at 71.4%, 173 yards and an interception, no touchdowns. So when you look at it on the surface, you're just like, okay, not terrible stats, but really they did not move the ball that well. Like, the stats show 15 to 21. Okay, that's a fine completion percentage, but didn't, like, when they're driving the field, didn't punch it in his zone. For example, this is how it ended for the first team offense against the number one defense. They're in a situation where there's like 143 left on the clock. The defense has 3 timeouts. The offense has to keep the ball. They can't give it back to the defense. So they end up throwing the ball for some reason on second down, and Taylon Green takes a sack. Now, it's important to note that a sack is a touch sack, not even a touch sack. Somebody's close to you. So Xavier Sori got a sack on Taylon Green. The next play, they're on 3rd and long, 3rd and 12 or something like that, maybe even farther back. And Taylon throws the ball, and he's picked off by Xavier Sori. Big plays by Xavier Sori, by the way. That stands out, but not the best way to end that. Then they come back and the second team offense takes over, and the second team offense played pretty well overall, especially, both those quarterbacks played well. KJ Jackson and Madden Maliava, both of them I thought did really well. KJ, in fact, had 2 touchdowns. Maliava didn't, but he threw some really nice balls, had 132 passing yards, 7 to 12. KJ Jackson was 13 of 18. So they come back and, they've got, I guess they had a couple of timeouts left because they kind of take over for the defense. So Anyway, and then they come back and the offense has to score. The offense did this time get in field goal range, and that was the goal, to get to field goal range. Mike Washington probably had his best run of the day. It was an 11-yard run right up the gut. They get in field goal range. I believe he hits Raylan Sharp for a nice pickup, and then they miss the field goal. Scott Starzik was just 2 of 6 on field goals. Now, a couple of those were over 50 yards, but one of them was 37. This one, I believe, was a 43-yarder to win the game, and they missed it. So not a great showing by the special teams units, although Shamar Easter did have a punt block. Whether you view that as a good thing or a bad thing is up to you, I guess, because it is against Arkansas's punt team. Rodney Hill had a big day, again, mostly with the second-team offense, 5 carries for 102 yards. He had one that was like 40-something yards, 2 touchdowns. Mike Washington, 12 carries for 58 yards and a touchdown. Didn't really have any explosive runs aside from the Rodney Hill run. The scary moment came with Braylon Russell, went down holding his knee, 4 carries for -1 yard early in the scrimmage. But it is a sprain. It's not something that's going – his spring is done, but it's not something that's going to carry on too long. It's just a knee sprain. It was a little scary. He kind of went down, kind of holding the back of it. So it kind of, puts in your head is like, if Braylon goes down, where are they? We're going to talk about scholarship distribution here in a little bit too. So I just wanted to go over some things from the scrimmage. All the sacks and stuff you see, you can read all the stats on Hog Sports, but all the sacks and stuff you see, again, are, proximity sacks, not even necessarily touch sacks. And that's something you have to consider also, because Taylor Green can really run the ball. I mean, we know that, especially before he hurt his knee last season. He was really dangerous on the ground, and that aspect is taken away in these scrimmages. Now, to balance that out, he also knows that he's not about to get lit up by a linebacker when he's, from his blind side. He has that in his head too. So maybe it kind of balances out in that regard. Cross Johnson, 4 catches for 70 yards, 74 yards. C.J. Brown, 7 for 64 yards and 2 touchdowns. Cam Shanks, 5 catches for 59 yards. Omega Blake, 2 catches for 54 yards. Didn't see Omega Blake a whole lot except for early in the scrimmage. Not sure why that was exactly. But all those stats are broken down, 101 plays. They just did first-team offense versus first-team defense, second-team offense versus second-team defense. No third-team stuff aside from rotating guys in on occasion. We also have the full depth chart. You can see how that played out, how guys were rotated in. Complete coverage, what you'd expect from Hog Sports after all these years. 22 years now with Hog Sports, by the way. All right, let's look at the scholarship distribution right now for Arkansas, because portal season is coming up and there's got to be some movement, okay? Right now, if you consider that it looks like Jordan Anthony is going to track only, that's not official. That was pretty heavily indicated by Sam Pittman, as he was saying he didn't want to comment on it. It was pretty heavily indicated that Jordan Anthony is going to track only, which makes sense. I mean, he's setting records in track. So if that's the case, then I've got them at 86 scholarship players right now. The max for this year, until eventually when we assume they are going in the SEC to 105, the max this year is 85 scholarship players. I have a model that I came up with myself just based on piecing things together over the year, and then it's like, okay, well, this makes sense. And I call it the 3 deep plus 1. So that means you go 3 deep at every position group plus 1 to account for an injury or something. That's, to get through practices and stuff, to have a good scout team, all those kinds of things. That's kind of the model. There are a few adjustments that I make to that formula. For example, quarterback, I allow for an extra beyond a 3 deep because the position is so volatile. At running back, you're not always going to be in 11 personnel. You might be in 21 personnel with 2 backs. So to kind of account for that, give them an extra running back, that kind of stuff. Same thing with tight end. You might be in, 12 personnel with 2 tight ends. So you kind of maybe give them an extra guy here and there. So the way I've got it broken down, I've got them at 5 quarterbacks. It's a good number. Hopefully nobody transfers out from this list. That gives you, some guys for the future, your starter, quality scout team guys also. Running back, I've got them at 6. Again, that's a position that also you see some injuries. So Important to consider that. So I've got him at 6 running backs. I don't see any need for another running back unless you lose guys. I think Mike Washington and Braylon Russell are a good tandem that they've got right now. Washington is better than I thought he was going to be. Didn't have an outrageous scrimmage, but he was pretty consistent overall. The one thing that he did that was disappointing, they're at the 1 yard line and he tries to cut and he slips and falls down and they don't score. But I like Washington and Braylon Russell as a 1-2 punch. And then I think you've got Rodney Hill, A.J. Green, who, by the way, doesn't count on this scholarship list. There's a couple of scholarship-type guys, A.J. Green, Monte Harrison, who aren't on scholarship. Monte Harrison's paid through baseball, his contract, and A.J. Green is walking on. So you've got a couple of guys like that too. So no need for any change at running back unless some guys hit the portal. Again, that opens April 16th. It runs through the 25th. So it's a 10-day portal window that you can enter. That doesn't mean you have to come out. That recruitment process obviously will continue on. Wide receivers, I have got them at 13 wide receivers, and that's too many. 3 deep plus 1 model would tell you about 10 wide receivers. That's too many wide receivers. I don't know where they make cuts. I mean, you brought in 5 guys from the transfer portal. There is some activity with wide receivers that are currently in the transfer portal. Guys who have graduated can enter anytime. So that window doesn't apply to them. But, you brought in those guys. You've got Jace Brown, Jacaden Ferguson, Antonio Jordan, Quentin Murphy. You've got 4 guys that you brought in from the high school ranks, 5 transfers. That's 9 right there. C.J. Brown is a guy that's probably in their top 6. Cross Johnson, probably 2. Zachary Taylor, he's just a redshirt freshman. But there's not a lot of guys that you look at and say, it's time for them to move on. This guy's been here a couple of years now and he's not contributing. There's really not any of those guys. Cross Johnson, Zachary Taylor. Who else did I mention? C.J. Brown. They're only going into their second year right now. So, I don't know what they do at wide receiver, but when you have a surplus at one position, it means you're deficient at another one. And they also have had, 7 guys, 5 guys transfer out, plus Jordan Anthony, so 6 total guys. Again, the Anthony stuff isn't official. That's what we're expecting. Tight end, got him at 5. Numbers-wise, I don't see any reason. Jaden Platt's actually come on these last couple of practices. That's notable. He was injured a little bit. You can get Rohan Jones and Jaden Platt going, plus Poshka, who's, kind of like an extra tackle in a lot of ways. Maybe you'll be okay there. I've got him at 15 offensive linemen. The ideal number to me is 16, maybe 17, but 16 probably. Don't see any reason for movement here unless there are some guys that transfer out. It is notable you had, 5 guys transfer out, 1 guy take a medical hardship, and 1 guy, go ahead and move on to life after football, even though he had eligibility. Left Josh Streets, gotten into coaching, I believe. So that's 7 offensive linemen from last year's team that had eligibility remaining that aren't with the team now. So you've already had a lot of activity there. Defensive end. So I look at defensive line, I say you need probably 7 or 8 ends and 8 or 7 defensive tackles. So 7 of one, 8 of the other, whichever way you want to do it. 15 total defensive linemen. And I've got them at 9 defensive tackles and 7 ends. So from a number standpoint, they're fine. However, they do not have 5 defensive tackles who are like veteran players ready to go, been in a college weight room. They've got 4. Caleb Bell, the freshman, would be the 5th, in my opinion, right now. They need to go out and probably find another defensive tackle who's ready to play. Transfer portal age, you should have 5 defensive tackles, my opinion, that are ready to go. Veteran guys that are ready to go. Cam Ball, Danny Sauli, David Oki, and Ian Gerfard are the 4. So you look at this list and you say, okay, who are a couple of guys that have been on campus for a while that aren't contributing yet? And I used not to ever talk about this, but J.J. Hollingsworth's going to be a redshirt junior, not really contributing a whole lot on game days. I think he's just played maybe 1 game his career. I flip it over to, Caleb James is going into his 3rd year, and he hasn't really contributed either. I'm not saying those guys are out, but I'm just saying, and it's a little more cutthroat in this day and age. Are you helping us or are you not helping us? To me, the numbers are a little bit more at defensive tackle. They've got 9. They need one. So what do you do there? Defensive end, I think they need a defensive end. I think they need a defensive end. I don't know that Charlie Collins is quite where you want him. I think he's got potential to be a good player. He's just a second-year guy. I don't know if he's quite there yet. Quincy Rhodes, to me, is the defensive end, like starting SEC quality defensive end. To me, they've got a guy, and that's Quincy Rhodes. So we could see more 3-3-5, putting 3 linebackers on the field, taking a defensive end off. They have worked on that a lot more lately. We'll see how things shake out. As Travis Williams said, big guys cost a lot of money. Defensive ends, a stud defensive end, cost money and is going to be very coveted. So if a guy pops in that portal, everybody's going to be on him. And then they're going to warrant a lot of money. Defensive ends, left tackles, quarterbacks, those are the guys that cost a lot of money. All right. Linebacker. I would like to see them add one more older linebacker to this group. I don't want to see any of these guys leave, but bring in one guy. Steven Dix, Xavier Sorey, Bradley Shaw is probably that third guy. He'll definitely be in there when they're in a 3-3-5. He's definitely the guy that rotates in first. Wyatt Simmons has done some good things. He's coming back from a hamstring. Tavian Wallace, the freshman. You've also got Justin Logan, who's just a redshirt sophomore, or excuse me, a redshirt freshman. Tavian Wallace was a top recruit in the class. To me, it's just like you seem a little young there. You seem a little young past those 2 starters. Somebody gets dinged up, you get really young. Bring in an Antonio Greer type. Bring in Anthony Switzer type, a guy that had 100-something tackles on the G5 level and has got a lot of experience wanting to prove himself in the SEC. He's a senior. Find that guy, in my opinion. Give you a little bit of insurance at linebacker. Cornerback, I think they're okay at cornerback just because they brought in and by okay, I'm not saying like they're going to be like a good group of cornerbacks. I'm just saying they brought in Jordan Young, who hasn't practiced all spring, who's a starter at Cincinnati. They brought in Kenai Walker, who was a starter at Oklahoma. They bring back Selman Bridges, who was the top recruit in the previous class, maybe the second highest. I think Charlie Collins was the top. But one of the top recruits in the previous class who started pretty much the whole time. I really like Keyshawn Davila. I think he has a lot of ability. The junior college transfer, he was the #1 junior college defensive back in the country. So I think they've got some potential there with the guys that they have brought in to where I wouldn't say you need to go out and get, a starting guy. Plus, James Singletary, I know he hasn't been quite what he was billed to be as a former 5-star recruit. Jaden Allen is a guy that's a little bit younger that they like. So I don't know that they I don't know that that's a priority. I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying I don't know, like in the list of priorities, if this is one of them right now. Safety, I think from a numbers standpoint, they do need to get a safety. I don't dislike what they have back there necessarily. I'm not saying like I'm in love with it. I'm not saying like I see a bunch of NFL guys back there. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's going to be a team strength. Secondary gave up more passing yards than any team in the SEC last year. But from a number standpoint, I feel like they need one more. They have 8 safeties. They have 9 corners. I think you need like 18 defensive backs because you also have the nickel position. That gives you a 3 deep plus 1 at all 3 of those spots. So I think that they could use a safety for sure on this team. And they had quite a bit of, of turnover at this position. They brought in Quintavious Scandrett. They brought in Caleb Wooden. So those 2 guys, they lost Dylan Haas, TJ Metcalf, Dallas Young, Tevis Metcalf. So yeah, they need it. They need another. I'm not just blown away with this defense right now through watching them through the spring. Now, I did feel like they outdid the offense, which was surprising to me because I have felt like the offense is ahead. I know early on that it was like well ahead. I'm not looking at this defense and going NFL, 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 does that mean they are going to be a bad defense? It doesn't necessarily mean that. I would be surprised if they're an above average defense. I know that. I would be surprised. So those are the needs to me. They need a safety. They need a veteran linebacker. They need a defensive end. They need a defensive tackle. I'm not convinced that they necessarily need anything on offense. I'm not sure that there is a need, but they do need some attrition. They're a little unbalanced. The formula that I put out gives you 41 offensive players, 41 defensive players, 3 specialists, a kicker, a punter, and a snapper. I've got them at 44 offensive players. Okay, so that's 3 that they probably need to trim just to fit the formula. I mean, I'm not saying they may have a different formula. I just think it works pretty well. 39 defensive players, 3 specialists, 86 total right now. That's where they're at. Okay. Danny West has some stories breaking down Arkansas transfer portal needs. It's a really good read if you haven't checked it out yet. But Danny, we're not having Danny on the show right now because he is getting everything ready for a transfer portal. Like all the stuff that, you would expect from Hog Sports and from Danny West. He's getting it all ready right now because it's coming up just a couple of days away. Today is April 14th. It starts on the 16th. All right, we're going to bring Connor Goodson in. Change gears a little bit. For those of you who don't follow Connor, you can follow him at Connor Goodson on X, CONNOR. Connor, how's it going, man?
Man, it's going. It's portal season. I wouldn't mind talking about football a little bit because the basketball side of things is a little crazy. It's been a crazy weekend for nothing being official out there, but we're making it. We're making it.
So tell us what you mean by that, Connor. I know that we're expecting a visitor in today, so get us up to speed on that, and then tell us everything else.
Yeah, so Malik Ewan, who I talked about last time I was on here, he's expected to be on campus for an official visit today. Big-time prospect, kind of slots into that center role that Arkansas desperately needs right now on the roster. Had 9 double-doubles last year, led Florida State with 14.2 points a game, 7.6 rebounds, and averaging a little over 1 assist a game on 59% shooting from the field. Big time player, really, really solid big man. I love the way that he kind of gets after it on the offensive glass, really the glass at both ends, but really big time prospect who I think that Arkansas right now, based on everything that we're hearing, a really good spot to possibly land him. He's got a visit scheduled for Mississippi State after he goes to Arkansas. Maybe there's a chance that he pops before going to Starkville. Auburn's also involved there, but from my end, everything that I've heard, the Auburn staff has been trying to set up a visit and hasn't yet. So I think that would lend itself to being a positive development that he still hasn't set up a visit with Bruce Pearl and company so far. So maybe he gets to Fayetteville and you get a commitment to pop for him, which would be huge. And it would be very much needed because there has been no official word other than the 3 departures, Big Z, Adu Thero, and Boogie Flan leaving for the draft. That's the only bit of official news we've gotten. And so, I can't really blame people for getting a little restless and kind of wondering what's going on. No retention announcements yet, even though from what I've heard, it sounds like TB, Billy, Carter Knox, those 3 guys are solidly expected to be from my a little bit more. We haven't gotten any
Connor,
official announcements on that front. And then,
we're going to take a beat real quick with
outside
you, Connor,
of that.
All right, we're going to take a beat real quick with Connor because he doesn't have Ozarks Go internet where he lives. So his internet's cutting out just a little bit. But right now, so as far as guys returning while we wait for whatever to catch up over there, obviously Nelly Davis is done. Boogie Flan's going to the NBA. Adu Thero has also declared. You've got Trevin Brazil. Jonas Adu's out of eligibility. Carter Knox. DJ Wagner. Billy Richmond. Zvonimir Visic is transferring to Illinois. So you've got those 4 right now. And as far as the recruit side of things, you've got, let's see, let me bring it up. Commitments. As far as basketball recruiting, you've got Darius Acuff, Malik Thomas, Isaiah Seeley. They also have the foreign player I don't have on this list, I guess because he's not in the United States. He's not ranked on 24/7. So there's 4 there. So that's 8 total right now. Let's see. Check back in with Connor. Make sure. See if he's back. Connor.
Am I there? Am I good?
Yeah, you started, bleeping out and stuff.
I don't know.
So,
My
so just
power's been
rewind about 2 minutes and let's go.
okay. What was the last thing that I was saying? I was kind of going off. Well, basically, outside of not getting any retention news, and outside of the Malik Ewan visit, really, it's been a little bit. I mean, there's been no official, announcement. It's a little kind of confusing on where Arkansas is and where they kind of go from there. We heard a name on Jeron Pierre. Sorry, I messed up that name a little bit, but the Jacksonville State transfer wing had a lot of smoke that Arkansas was involved there. And it looked like that Arkansas was recruiting him pretty heavily based on talking to the other 3 teams that were involved, people that were following those recruitments at Auburn, at SMU, at Ole Miss. It seemed like Arkansas was in on him, and the other staffs were really concerned about Arkansas and Calipari making a push for him and possibly landing him. He's supposed to make a decision later today. And you heard some scuttlebutt out there that maybe Calipari snuck him on campus for a visit Friday or Saturday. The only confirmation on this recruitment that I've been able to get at all was that there was no on-campus visits Friday in Fayetteville. There was nobody on campus for an official visit Friday. And the expectation coming into this weekend was that there was not going to be anyone on campus before Malik Ewan on Monday. That's the only thing that I've been able to solidly confirm. So, yeah, my thinking was there's a chance it would match up with what Calipari's done in the past, bringing guys behind, kind of under the cover of darkness on campus to get them on. And without anyone knowing. Nelly Davis visited without anyone knowing, and we didn't find that out until really close to his decision that he even visited. So it wouldn't have shocked me, but it now apparently seems like that Pierre did not actually make it to campus, and that it looks like he's Ole Miss bound. So where does Arkansas kind of go from here? I think that you've really got to look at, getting a solid answer with Ewan. Make sure he doesn't get to Starkville. Make sure he doesn't set up a visit with Auburn, and try to really lock him down. And then, Nick Pringle, the South Carolina big man, he's out there as well. Those 2 decisions, their paperwork has been processed, which doesn't really mean a ton, but it is smoke that they're actually in on those guys. And Nick Pringle supposedly visited before the dead period. Those 2 guys, if you can lock those down, I think that it would really help the overall vibes of how this portal season has gone, because you've got a lot of restless fans just waiting for some news. And I mean, I expected there to be, at least a handful of, retention announcements, maybe 1 portal pop between now and between the last time I was on here to now. And we're still at square one. We're still at ground zero where we were. So that's a little, I can understand frustration for the slowness and the drip feeding of news, and just how quiet it has been, because not knowing the unknown is a lot scarier than when you can actually know something and know what's going and have a really clear picture of what the vision is for what this roster will look like. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. It's a little bit frustrating, but at the end of the day, Calipari is going to get his studs. He's going to get assemble one of the top rosters in college basketball and one of the better rosters that money could buy. We know that's going to happen. The ride might be a little bit frustrating though. So I guess keep having a little bit of patience, and we'll see where this ends up.
It looks like a lot of the top transfers have decided on where they're going. I mean, R.J. Lewis Jr. has not made a decision from St. John's. He's the number 3. The top 2 guys have. Number 4 has Darian Williams from Texas Tech. Obviously, we're familiar with him. Which is a name
to possibly watch. I know he's testing the NBA stuff, but him and Florida State transfer Jameer Watkins are names that I would expect Arkansas to be involved with at least. But those decisions are going to come like later down the road, because they're waiting. They're going through the NBA draft process.
Yeah.
And so I think the end of May is when when you have until to pull your name out of that process. So it could be waiting around for an uncomfortably long time on some of these guys. But in which I think that like with Ewan, I would hope that after he visits, at least Fayetteville and Starkville, you get a decision pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, all signs are pointing to him in Arkansas right now. And so I would expect maybe we could hear something in the next couple of days at least, which would be nice.
What's DJ Wagner going to do?
So my gut feeling on this has been the whole time that like I just cannot picture him and Calipari going through a split. Like I just can't picture him not playing for Calipari just because of the connections that are there, the opportunity that he has at Arkansas, and just that relationship with Cal. Like he's not going to get that anywhere else. Like anywhere else he goes, he's not guaranteed to play big minutes. The staff has said that they're not really sure of his role next year with Acuff and Thomas coming in, and just they want to add more shooting as well. So where does that kind of fit in with Wagner? Do they think that he can take a big step off ball? Well, I mean, he wasn't the best earlier in the season when he was in that kind of role. So it's like, does he take a big jump? There's a lot of that going on, which, DJ's also having a process in his family. So that's where that kind of, uneasiness with his decision. But I just can't envision him not playing for Cal. I mean, can you? I don't see him. I mean, maybe it makes sense if he got a big offer from somewhere, but it doesn't sound like there's just a bunch of teams knocking down the door and trying to tamper to get him there. So I think he ends up back in Fayetteville, but it would not shock me if I was wrong on that. I just can't see a split between those two, because
I kind of agree with you. I couldn't imagine Lucas in an Ole Miss uniform, but there it is.
Very good point. Yeah. So that doesn't really count for much.
You mentioned a couple of guys. What's wild here is I'm looking through the top player rankings. Ian Jackson at North Carolina, 5, 6, and 7 have still not declared. 3, 5, 6, and 7 have not declared. And then you go 8 all the way down to 21, and they have all made decisions on where they're going to end up. And so has 23, 24, 25. I mean, you really get down past number 25 to find guys that have not made a decision yet as far as the transfer portal ranking. So it's thinning out a good bit. But
and you've only got like eight days. This is the last full week for guys to be able to jump in. So
what's Ewan ranked?
I don't think
he's not. He must not be ranked. Maybe they have some guys that haven't.
He's number 92 overall, the number 10 center, a 4-star transfer for 24/7. That's what they have him as. He's got a 93 overall transfer rating, 4-star.
Yeah. So I mean, there are a lot of guys in the top 100 or so that they're all similarly ranked. These are all 4-star guys. So
and honestly, if the last 2 years have taught us anything, it's that, do these rankings really even matter that much? If you get, sometimes it's usually the guys that are kind of in that outside the 100, top 100 rankings that are the guys that you're really talking about in March that kind of come out of nowhere, and everyone's like, oh wow, this dude, how is he not evaluated higher? And then it's the, you
don't think Nelly Davis was the 3rd best transfer in the country last year?
Yeah, Jonas Adu was top 10 as well. It's just like
what was Adu? No, Adu was 17.
Oh, 17. Okay.
Yeah.
But both those guys.
This picture of him, it's like, that's not Jonas Adu, but it is. It's like his high school picture for some reason.
You gotta love that. But yeah, like, and even the year before that, Musselman put together the top transfer portal class in the country, and ended up going 16 and 17. So I mean, these rankings aren't everything. That's more about fit, and I think that Ewan's a great fit, and I think I kind of like what they're doing. He's a really high level player. He's got soft touch, really good deep bag down in the low post. But what I think fans will appreciate most is he gets after it on the boards. Like he's a dog on the glass at both ends. And so that's what I like about him. And so I like pushing to hopefully get him in a Razorback jersey next year. But I'm just hoping for any kind of news. I would love to, rattle off 3 returning announcemements here this afternoon. And then, maybe we learn of a Ewan commitment overnight or something. But yeah, just any news would be good news right now. We just need some direction.
What about a Nate Ament decision? Last I saw on him was like 1 or 2 weeks.
It was tentatively set for April 1st, and he pushed it back, and now he's pushing it back another, week or 2. I don't really see Arkansas involved with him much anymore. It sounds like that ship has sailed. Maybe they're still pushing a
Whoa,
little.
we've gone to ship has sailed now.
Yeah, from everything that I've gathered, it does not seem like Arkansas is making any more big pushes for him. It seems like that they've just kind of, I don't know if they've
They
rinsed
were
their hands.
recruiting the hell out of him.
That they were I've been as shocked with this recruitment as, I mean, it's taken so many twists and turns, but the one constant was that Calipari loves Nate Ament. I mean, he has been pushing harder than any coach in this recruitment consistently. And yeah, Arkansas was pretty late in the game on this. And so they had a lot of ground to make up, but Calipari, to his credit, he made up that ground. Arkansas was right there. And now it seems like with how things have been going and just how his recruitment, he's pushing out decision dates, and he wanted to see what different teams were adding in the portal. And it gets to a point where it's like, okay, how much longer can we actually wait for this kid to make up his mind? And we don't want to handcuff ourselves to where if he does pick elsewhere, we're kind of stuck with scraps in the portal. Like, we've got to kind of, we have a vision, and we can't afford to wait much longer on this. And I think that it's one of those situations where Arkansas just finally said, if he ends up picking Arkansas, great, but it's like, we've done all we can do. And if he's not ready to make a move, then maybe we should just move on. I think Arkansas still, I think that they're still one of the top teams involved, but I think that Duke and Tennessee are continuously the ones making pushes. And I've kind of felt a little bit in my gut for a while that it's still Duke. Duke's going to be tough to beat, but at the end of the day, you can't count out Calipari, and it sounds like the Calipari just kind of rinsed his hands of it a little bit and is moving on to maybe just adding guys out of the portal and kind of giving up. But it's crazy to me because Calipari has loved Nate Ament, and the effort that he went, visiting multiple times a week during the season to go see him at his school and stuff. It's like to be done just like that with it is a little shocking, but this recruitment has been crazy to follow. Like, there's a stretch where I was just like, whatever he does, I great on you. I'm tired because it was changing by the hour. And then, now it sounds like Arkansas is out, and he's probably headed to Duke if I had to guess right now. But yeah, that's what I got on that. It's a really talented player, but sometimes, it's better to just be done and remove yourself so you can kind of free up other things and go after other guys.
What are they freeing up, though? We've just established there's nobody out there.
they real G's
give me something
silent.
Positive.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm searching, Trey. I'm telling you, it's been a frustrating weekend with just how Calipari operates. And then you look at some other teams and how their whole portal process is just out in the open, and it's being broadcast for the masses. And you're over here, and we're just literally fighting tooth and nail for just the little bit.
Well, it's not like it's just a tight-lipped situation. It's like their guys are just coming off the board.
Yeah, they're coming off the board, and it's like you hear that Arkansas has reached out. You hear that their contact, this is a guy that, he would be a perfect fit. And then you don't hear Arkansas is involved, and then you start. It's a little confusing on what the strategy is. Like we said last week, retention was the big priority for Calipari, and it sounds like he's gotten that. So also what's next?
With the way that we're headed with NIL and revenue sharing, it feels like this is the opportunity to capitalize where the model that we're moving towards, and I don't know if I've really discussed this a whole lot, but from what I understand, out of the $20.5 million, which is the average revenue, the Power 4, Power 5, whatever you call it, the average revenue of those schools, 22% off of that. So $20.5 million, what I'm told is like expect 65, 70% to go to football. So say 65 goes to football, 25% goes to basketball. That puts basketball at about 5.1 million right there. Football at around 13 million. And then you talk 5% to baseball, which is about 1 million, and then 5% to women's sports, which is about 1 million. So $600 has to go through the clearinghouse and has to be approved. Any NIL deal over $600. I think the plan is to move all of this more towards a revenue sharing model and away from so much of the NIL. Still have NIL involved, obviously. That's going to be part of it, but making sure that it's legitimate. Like
Right.
a $2 million. So say we want to give this quarterback $4 million. There's a guy asking for it. Say you want to give this quarterback $4 million in NIL money. Or maybe you got a deal where it's $2 million of your revenue sharing and $2 million in NIL. So that $2 million NIL, you have to prove, that is the fair market value for this particular player through the clearinghouse. And if they deem, what I'm told, the way it's moving, is if they deem that it's not justified, this $2 million, then that $2 million will be deducted from your revenue sharing. It'll be deducted from you. That'll be the penalty. So it does sound like there's going to be some enforcement. Deloitte is the accounting firm that has been hired as a third party to help oversee all that stuff. So it feels like that's kind of the model that they're moving toward to get more parity in sports. And, there's still going to be cheating and stuff like that. I mean, there's still, I'm sure, players getting paid under the table right now.
They're going to find ways around it. If there's a loophole, they'll find it pretty quickly.
Yeah, but my point is, this might be the last year where Arkansas maybe does have a distinct advantage as far as support for basketball in the NIL landscape. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so to your point, like when you hear that Adu Thero is going to the draft after he was supposedly contemplating coming back and there was a chance that he could return, you hear that, and then you hear that Arkansas has bowed out of the Native Mint thing, that they're not confident that they're going to get him. That clears a good chunk of change that you were going to, you had earmarked for those two guys. And so on top of what we know with Arkansas's, NIL, their budget is supposedly, as competitive as any other NIL budget in the country. That would lead you to believe that some of these big names that are in the portal, like Arkansas, should be involved and should be fighting for those guys. Arkansas should not be sitting here. I mean, I say that, but it's like, where are these big money moves? Like, where is the money going? I get that you're going to have to probably give some of these guys that are, returning a little bit of a raise. They're not going to come back for their, incoming freshman discount that you got them on last year, which I mean, they're going to get a bump, but it's also like, where are these big money moves? You've supposedly got the biggest budget in the SEC. You've got one of the most competitive ones in the country. And it just feels like that this so far hasn't been a portal stretch where Arkansas is really, flexing their strength in that. And like you said, this is the last year you can really do that. And you can, really, set the tone and just really go in and muscles another team out with your NIL. And that hasn't happened yet. And, I think back to what Calipari said, if you want to if you're just coming here to get paid, don't come here. And we've seen even at Arkansas, like his track record shows that he's not going to get into these massive bidding wars where guys are just, going back and forth between two teams, seeing if they can get more money. He's not going to do that. But I do think that at some point you got to kind of flex your muscle a little bit and say, this is a big fish. This is one of the better guys that, we're in on. Let's go get him. And then you spend whatever you need to go get him. I feel like that needs to happen, and it just hasn't happened yet. And I don't know, maybe there's a big fish waiting to jump in the portal this last week that maybe the staff has their eyes on, and hopefully that happens. But right now, I think that's been the most frustrating part, is that it's the last off season that you have to really throw this big budget at players, and it hasn't happened yet. And so fans and myself are just kind of like, well, what's going on? What are we doing here? And so I think that's what the frustrating thing is. But at the end of the day, you kind of got to trust Calipari to a point. And, they probably got a vision that none of us can really see right now, and trust that it's going to work out, I guess. And hopefully we get some good news with you and on campus today, and we can really go from there.
Yep, I think so. All right, Connor. Appreciate you, buddy.
Good talking to you, Trey. Take care.
All right, everybody. That's Connor Goodson. You can follow Connor on X at Connor Goodson, Connor Goodson, and read all of his content at HawgSports.com. Puts out A lot of great stuff, not just help us with basketball, but also football as well. And a lot of his stuff is VIP, so you want a VIP subscription to sign up. And as I mentioned, Danny West is busy working on getting ready for Wednesday for the transfer portal. A lot of content. There's some content out today, a couple of articles, and he'll have a lot more as we track everything that's going on with the transfer portal. I just put out the updated scholarship distribution. Danny's got a breakdown of the needs out of the transfer portal. So should be pretty exciting when all that hits on Wednesday. By the way, we aren't going to have Kevin Bohannon today. He's got a family issue that has popped up, so we won't be able to have Kevin Bohannon. But Arkansas obviously losing the series at Georgia, at number 7 Georgia, over the weekend. They won 13-3 on Friday, and then they lost 7-6 on Saturday, and then Sunday they lost the rubber match 7-6 in 12 innings. Next up for Arkansas baseball is UAPB in Fayetteville tomorrow on April 15th. That's Tuesday at 6 p.m. And then the next series, SEC series, is Thursday through Saturday against Texas A&M. The first game is 7 o'clock on April 17th, 6:30 on April 18th, and 4 o'clock on April 19th from Baum Walker Stadium in Fayetteville. So that's what's next up. You still got like 5 more weekend series for baseball. So you got A&M, Florida, Texas, LSU, Tennessee. So some big ones coming up. Okay. Hey, I want to mention real quick, if you haven't left us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we would certainly appreciate that. I made that bid last week. We only had one person leave a review, and I'm going to read it. It's from Dan 66. I really appreciate this show. Trey Biddy just reports the facts. Thanks, Dan. He is just giving you the facts and not hopeful opinion. He has really good sources, and I would say he is the best source for Razorback news. Great show. So take it from Dan. I appreciate you, Dan. Thank you. Please leave us a 5-star review if you haven't done so already, and give us a thumbs up or a like or whatever if you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel on Facebook if you haven't done so already. And follow us on Facebook. I think we're like 106,000 followers on our Facebook page now. Sign up at Hog Sports, so on and so forth. Do all of the things. What is that? Oh, that's this show. Okay, so let's get to some questions now. All right. So I'm pulling these from the Razor's Edge forum on Hog Sports first. Question from Brown 1994. Did we just see a change in the 2026 quarterback succession plan? If that's so, the biggest development of the spring, and presume we'll see Madden in cleanup game situations this fall. I don't know if they will play Madden Iamaliaba that much, but I do think as far as the ceiling goes, he might have the highest ceiling on the team, even including Taylor Green. I mean, he can really sling, like his movement in the pocket, very quick, very deliberate, really nice, quick throwing motion, can zip it downfield, very accurate. I mean, he's got a lot of potential. Bobby Petrino said last week that, he doesn't know all the plays necessarily, but he just kind of seems to find guys. The only guy that he can remember who could do what some of the things that he does as a freshman was Lamar Jackson. That's pretty high praise. I'm not saying that he's Lamar Jackson, but I am saying the guy can really whip it and just seems to have a knack for it. His progression from the first practice through the 12th has been remarkable, really. Really about the third practice, you could just kind of see it like, okay, this guy might be a little bit different. Tuscalore says, Trey, what's your thoughts about Crutchfield? Is he coming along at all? You don't talk much about him after practice. So I don't think that Crutchfield is among the 6 wide receivers right now, the top 6. I think the top 6 are Omega Blake, Raylan Sharp, Cam Shanks, C.J. Brown, Cross Johnson, Monte Harrison. I think those are the 6. Crutchfield might be 7th right now. He's just not, I mean, like, I can't just like make stuff up because he's super highly recruited and highly coveted, and everybody was excited to get him from Missouri, and disappointed when they lost him originally to Missouri. I mean, physically, he's got a lot of skill. Like, you can see physically the way he's put together, and maybe all that stuff is coming. I don't get a sense of urgency from him that, like, this is his opportunity, all that kind of stuff. I don't get that from him, but he just hasn't been as productive as the other guys. Now, could that change? He certainly has the physical traits to make that change. So we'll see. I'm not like out on him, but I'm just saying, like, if I'm like charting production and guys who are showing up and making catches and stuff, it's the 6 I mentioned, really. I don't think I left anybody out on that. Chad Razorback says, we often talk about player development, but what about head coach development? Pittman was hired with almost zero head coaching experience. Have you noticed any difference in the way he runs the program now before when he first got here? Yeah, I think there are definitely differences. I think that for the first few years, I think probably it was frustrating for Hog fans to feel like Pittman was kind of learning on the job at times. But he's gotten better. Like, he's done better at making decisions. I felt like the year that they went 4-8, like, if he could make the wrong decision when it came to whether or not to go for it on 4th down, whether you should kick a field goal or punt or go for it, like, I felt like he could not have made the wrong decision more. Like, statistically, it felt like he should have made the decision correctly more than he did. I feel like that has gotten better. Timeout usage, things like that have gotten better. Perfect? No, but have gotten better. Yes, I feel like that. I think that Pittman really puts a lot of weight on his coordinators to run their units. I mean, in the scrimmage, you had, Pittman was at the middle of the field. You had Bobby Petrino on the offensive side and Travis Williams, defensive staff, on the defensive side, just kind of leading things. But I feel like he puts a lot into those guys, but it's up to Pittman a lot of times to make those game day decisions and to make sure that the team is ready to play. So yes, I think he has made progress. Do I think it's a perfect result? No, I don't think he's like nailing it every time, but who is, I guess. FB Insurance 5, what made you decide to get into the business covering 24/7, covering sports 24/7? Is it the hardest job in the world? No. We just work hard at it. How many hours a week do you spend working? Have you ever wished you worked for a normal 9 to 5? These are good questions. So I used to do this thing when I actually used to be in the pecan business. I'd moved to South Georgia. South Central Georgia. My dad lives there. And we got in the pecan business together. It was 9/11. I'm telling this really fast, but 9/11. Okay. September 11th, 2001. I was in a field all alone, all day. I remember I went to this gas station to get some lunch, like some chicken and stuff, and made some joke that nobody laughed at. Went back out to the field, worked till like 6 o'clock, was driving home. I think I was on a Massey Ferguson tractor driving home, which is like a 20-minute drive from the pecan orchard. And my dad stopped me and basically asked me if I'd heard anything about what happened. I had no idea that any of the 9/11 stuff had taken place. I got home, turned on TV, start watching, like, holy crap, what is going on? My buddy called me from Washington, D.C. He's like, yeah, we've been off work all day. And I go, why? Like, I had no idea that anything had happened even in D.C. So I just felt like really stupid, alone, like really distant from the world. And I just remember thinking at that moment, like, I got to get out of here. During that time, I was writing this almost like a letter. I'd sign it, sincerely, Trey Biddy or something like that, or see you later, Trey. And I would send it to my buddy who lived in D.C. also. And like, I was writing these long breakdowns because that's about all I had there. Like, at night, I would like watch movies, dating somebody, wasn't serious about them or anything, just kind of going through life. And anyway, I was writing those things and he was sending it out to a ton of people. And I had no idea that he was even doing that until one day I got an email from somebody because I didn't write it one week. And they were like, hey, where's the Biddy report? It's like, what do you, and come to find out there's like this huge email chain. getting my Biddy report, as he was calling it. And so anyway, I decided to go back to school after that, get a degree in journalism, which I had, taken a lot of communications classes also. So I think I figured I could, with a year and some summer, I could get a degree in journalism. When I started doing that, I started working for started working for Rivals. And I worked for Rivals for 15 years. And then I've been with 24/7 Sports for the last 7 now. So yeah, that's how it worked out. That's in a nutshell type of answer. How many hours a week do you spend working? So during football season, I work pretty much every single day. I do work every day. I don't know, 60 hours a week, I guess. During the summer, I try to take it easier. I still work, but I also try to, play golf and make sure I'm recharged, because once the middle of July hits, then it's go time again. Do I ever wish I had a normal 9 to 5? 100%. I mean, I love what I do, but the doors don't ever close here. The doors are always open. If news breaks, news breaks. I can't reschedule something. If there's a press conference called or a practice called, that's when it is, And I mean, like, I know I could be doing hard work. I've been a farmer. I know I could be doing something that's much more challenging. But I always thought Danny West put it well, that, it's not hard work, but we work hard at it. So that's, that was 22 years ago, I guess, since I've been with 24/7, or excuse me, with covering Arkansas sports, I guess. Yeah, it's been a ride, hasn't it? Thanks for the question, FB Insurance 5. NLR Hog fan says, how many transfers will Pittman add when the portal opens? Any on the offensive side? I think that they could add everywhere. Obviously, there's going to be like good players available on offense. I just don't see it as a need in the overall scope of things. Like, could they get better with adding some guys? Of course they could. Money only goes so far. They need help on defense. Number one priority to me is a defensive end. I would love to see them go get a defensive end. I think they could use a defensive tackle. I think they could use, I'll say this one for last, but I think they need a safety. Maybe a guy that could do a lot of things for them. I think that in fact, Danny has an article. I'll go ahead and on a guy that might fit the bill. He was at Fresno State, transferred to Stanford, and then, transferred to Stanford and is back in the transfer portal. Where is he? Okay. Julian Neal would be a guy that could fit that bill. 6'2", 200. The number 70 overall prospect in the transfer portal, number 4 cornerback, 92 overall. Like in the secondary, you can move guys around a little bit here and there. You need nickels, you need safeties, you need corners. But to me, they really need to add a nickel safety type of guy. Not that I just hate the guys they have. I just know that there are injuries coming. Like, they're going to have an injury on every level, at least one. And when you're injured, you got to go to your second team guy. Well, how good is your second team guy? And for that matter, how good is your third team guy? Because he's going to be playing also. You're not just going to play, your starter the entire game. So you have to have a second team that's quality. And for that matter, in this day and age, you have to have a third team guy. So that's where it comes to me, like depth. Make sure that your numbers are correct everywhere. Make sure that you have a good scout team. Also, sometimes you recruit players just to be, not just to be, but, you want quality guys giving you a look too. So that's, to me, yes, 4. So you got 86 on scholarship right now. You got to lose 5 guys off this current roster if you're going to add 4 more. Defensive end is going to cost money if you're going to go find a starting quality defensive end. It's going to cost. All right, where's my spot? Basketball question from NLR Hog Fan. As a journalist, do you find it easier or more enjoyable with Coach Cal in charge, or is this coaching staff a lot more tight-lipped than Muss's coaching staff, making it more difficult to cover the basketball team? I don't hate Muss and wish him the very best, so this isn't a let's talk about Muss attempt. I'm generally curious about from a journalist standpoint. Well, Muss was definitely more out there. Like, he would lead the country in social media interactions. The transfer portal was always so wild because they would contact every single player in the portal, because instead of saying tight-lipped, they were, I guess, big-lipped, open-lipped. I don't know if that's a term that sounds kind of weird. They were over the top in terms of wanting people to think that they were involved with every single transfer that entered the portal. Everyone would say, when they're talking about who they have heard from, they would mention Arkansas. And that was a way to kind of divert things. I do know things with Calipari are easier than they were with Musselman. Musselman, just his personality, he's up till 11 something at night working. He's up at 5:30 in the morning on the treadmill working, demanding of his assistant coaches, relentless amount of work that he would put on them. With Cal, it's easier because he's John Calipari and people come to him. Not saying that the guy doesn't work. I don't mean that. I'm just saying the relentless amount of work that drives off your assistant coaches and stuff. That doesn't really happen with Calipari. Is it more enjoyable? I mean, it's a mix, because like Musselman was, yes, maybe they were more open with things. With Calipari, it's John Calipari. I mean, it's Cal. Like, that's pretty awesome that we get to cover a coach like that. I mean, it's pretty cool. Are there frustrations that, like, he doesn't show up to every post-game press conference? Because he doesn't. Citing that he's feeling under the weather or something. I mean, come on. I'm not buying all that. Doesn't do press conferences to preview basketball games. First coach I've ever covered that's done that. Yeah, sure, there's give and takes, but at the end of the day, it's John Calipari, And, it's a heck of a roster, even though it didn't pan out the way we had hoped it would. Arnold Ziffel, that's the pig from Green Acres. What will be the status of wide receiver Jordan Anthony in the fall? I think we kind of talked about that, but I mean, Sam Pittman was like, I'm not ready to comment on it, but like, he brought it up. He brought it up. To me, is like basically saying, 123485795. I hope that isn't your password, but it is your username. Trey, with the April 7th ruling, that number's been with us a long time, that username, by the way. With the April 7th NIL ruling, do you think this gives us a better chance in recruiting? I believe the portal has helped us quite a bit in closing the gap. I think Arkansas had an opportunity with NIL to close the gap more, but just it wasn't what it should have been. I felt like maybe Hunter Yurachek got a slow start in that. At the same time, like, people blame Hunter Yurachek for not embracing NIL, but like the Grove Collective, that was a grassroots fan-generated operation that was later like absorbed. Like, that was started by fans. It wasn't started by the University of Arkansas like One Arkansas was, or Arkansas Edge is now. So that's important to note also. But I think it should allow for some more parity. I mean, everybody's got $20.5 million to spend, no more. You can divvy it out how you want to, if you want to put it more in football or more in basketball. And with NIL, it looks like they're trying to legitimize it more to where, okay, you want to pay this guy this much in NIL. And what is NIL really? NIL is name, image, and likeness. I've said this before, but name, image, and likeness means that we are going to give this guy some money because he can sell what? He can sell AirPods, earbuds, whatever we call these things. He can sell these things. Not because he can help whatever football team that I went to in college, or whatever football team, whatever university I went to in college. That's a stupid way to say it. Whatever. Of course, you went to a university and college. Whatever university you went to, help win football games. It's because they think you can sell these AirPods. That's what name, image, and likeness is. What we have right now is pay for play. And that's what will continue. I mean, it's just, can you legitimize it? As long as there's collectives, they're going to be setting up a way to pay players to go to school and also fulfill, charity events. You get speaking engagement, speaker fees, those types of things, and working with other companies and stuff for advertising. But my thoughts are it's going to be more legitimized. And you've got the IRS. We haven't heard anything about like all these IRS deals, but I have heard from people who work in accounting that, there are more players coming to them than they've ever had in the past lately. So at least, get an accountant, obviously, if you're making money like that. Let's see. Will it help them close the gap? I just don't know. I mean, in theory, people will find a way to cheat and work around it. I always say with Arkansas, like, Travis Williams the other day didn't want to talk about individual players because worried about getting them poached. I just hope that Arkansas is also, looking at guys that they're going to poach, because if everybody's doing it, then why wouldn't Arkansas do it also? And other teams are doing it. I mean, there's no question about that. I just can't tell, from my vantage point looking, from Arkansas out, I can see other teams trying to come in. So I don't necessarily like see the other way around. And it's the same for people that would cover other teams. So maybe I should go around asking people, like, is Arkansas poaching anybody? Army of Nabunga says, Biddy, I think we should all type German every form and email for the rest of April. Are you with me? Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. Die Ente ist weiß, aber das Hund ist braun. I speak very little German. Yeah. 24/7 Hog says, will Tennessee's Nico issue become more of the norm? Possibly. I mean, there was the quarterback a few years ago who had the issue with Florida, saying that they promised him $13 million, which sounds like somebody misunderstood. I mean, Nico Iamaleava was getting, what was his deal, $4 million just to go there? I mean, and he was the number 2 ranked prospect in the entire country. But yeah, I mean, and maybe it'll be a learning lesson for some people. I don't know. It's certainly a weird deal. It makes me like, I know like there's a window to make millions of dollars and stuff, but man, like you create so many enemies by, doing stuff like that. You really do. I always felt like if you're an in-state player and you go to a school out of state, and it's different now again, because the out of school state may be willing to pay you more money. And like, how many opportunities do you have to make hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars? But like, so like if you're an in-state guy and you go to an out of state school, like you've created this whole group of people that really dislike you, versus if you didn't go to the out-of-state school, the out-of-state school is like not going to love you, but they're not going to despise you because you left. You know what I mean? I always kind of thought of things like that. Like what's good for your brand? Your brand matters. Celeste Hogg says, of all the coaching staffs you cover as a whole, where do you rank our current one? Well, I mean, it's good. That's a really good question. The Bobby Petrino staff, when he first got there with, or maybe not when he first got there, but I guess the one he ended with, you had Garrick McGee there, Coach Klinakis. That was a good staff. The defensive staff was a little, and I like Peoples. I mean, there's coaches, Steve Caldwell. There's coaches I liked on that staff. Willie Robinson wasn't like this outrageously good defensive coordinator. Bielema's staff when he first got there was pretty good and got worse each year, it seemed like. I really like the defensive coaching staff. I think maybe they don't have quite the top to bottom talent that you would like to see them have, but I do like that staff. I really like Marcus Woodson, Travis Williams. I like Deke Adams. I think that, maybe Deke has done better lately. Early on, I felt like they didn't really recruit enough defensive tackles. Nick Perry also, I like what I've seen out of him. I do like this coaching staff. Bobby Petrino's your offensive coordinator. I like the defensive staff. Yeah, it's a tough one. I like some of the Houston Nutt staffs, but nobody was like going after those coaches, for jobs and stuff. It's tough. I like this defensive coaching staff. I might have said I like the offensive coaching staff with Petrino way up there. I like Eric Mateos. I mean, I don't know. It's not a bad staff. When you think about it like that, you think it like, we're talking about like the assistant coaches compared to past Razorback staffs. I like it better than the Chad Morris staff, although I like some coaches there. I like Jeff Traylor. He was a really good recruiter. That's a tough question. I'd really have to really think about that because it's not like, Houston Nutt staffs, they were all very loyal to him, but again, wasn't like a staff that was like just getting pursued for other jobs where, maybe you see that with Pittman's staff, Bielema's staff. Bielema's staff was trying to think. I mean, his first staff was pretty darn good. Bielema's first staff, Charlie Partridge, Sam Pittman, his offensive line coach. That was a pretty good staff overall. Chris Ash went on to be a head coach who was defensive coordinator. They didn't have a good defense. He was just there the first year. Bielema's first staff was not bad at all, actually. Michael Smith. Who was the running backs coach for that staff? Oh, yeah, it was Tom. He went on to coach for the New Orleans Saints. Yeah, I mean, Bielema's first staff, maybe. King Hog 27 says, comparing the last spring to this spring, have you seen any noticeable changes in the overall size and speed of the team? Which freshmen look like most ready at the moment? Size. Well, it's a better offensive line compared to last spring. There's no question in my mind the offensive line is better than it has been the last couple of years. No question to me. I don't love the tight end room right now. I do think Platt's getting better. I think Rohan Jones is good. I think Poshka is an extra blocker. It's all right. Wide receiver room's not as good, especially like the top end, but they also kept playing Tyrone Broden, and he struggled catching the ball his whole career, especially last year. I just don't know that they have like Andrew Armstrong on this team. You know what I mean? Like, I think they've got a better group overall, but is there an Andrew Armstrong? Is there a Luke Haas? I think Rohan Jones is close. I don't know that he's Luke Haas, but I think he'll make some plays for him. Offensive line's better. Quarterback should be better. He should be better in his second year and hopefully not deal with that knee injury. Running back, healthy Jaquinton Jackson was pretty good for him. Can Braylon Russell be as good as Jaquinton Jackson as the starter? I think he could be. I like Mike Washington. I mean, you had Rashad DeBinion, Rodney Hill. Rodney Hill's put on like 10 pounds. Rodney Hill's noticeably bigger. It's a good question. Defensively, not as good. They were better at defensive tackle last year. I mean, they had Eric Gregory. They were better at defensive end. They were probably equal at linebacker. You lost Brad Spence, who I heard he got a lot of money at Texas. A lot. Like, didn't have any choice but to go. But is Bradley Shaw as good as Brad Spence? Possibly. So maybe as good there. And then the secondary, man, I would hope that they end up being better. They lost Jalen Braxton, but Braxton only played 2 games last year. They lost TJ Metcalf, who was, eventually, I don't think he started the last couple of games for him last year, like after Ole Miss. So maybe they're a little bit better in the secondary. They're definitely not better on the defensive line. Hopefully we'll be better on special teams, but Saturday wasn't real encouraging. Which freshman look the most SEC ready at the moment? Caleb Bell. I really like him on the defensive line. I think he comes off the ball. I think he you could get a little bit stronger probably in the weight room. He's just a freshman, but I like him. I like Otis too. Tavion Wallace has looked really good so far. He's just a freshman linebacker, which I don't like freshman linebackers. J.J. Shelton has been running second team at nickel. Does that mean like in a game he would be the second nickel to come in? I don't know. But as far as practice goes, he's the second nickel. He has done some good things. Defensive backs, I'm not sure I would say anybody right now. Wide receiver, Jacaden Ferguson looked good before he went down with an injury, and he's missed most of the spring. I want to see Antonio Jordan. Is he a guy that's going to be able to play? Obviously, Madney Amaliaba has been very impressive. Cam Settles has done some good things here and there. I don't know if I'm like he's going to play a big role at running back. Yeah, Caleb Bell, J.J. Shelton, Madney Amaliava. Yeah, I feel like that's probably the group. You don't rely on freshmen like you used to. That's something that's so much different about these teams these days. Okay. Wo Weird Der, Geckhock, Vogel, Off, Dem, Grossen, Fetfield. That might be above me. Army. I don't know most of those words. Grossen? Is that big? So you're learning German, obviously. Interesting fella. Lifelong Hog fan, Lifelong Hog says, live in Oklahoma, been hearing a lot. In time, there will be 32 teams of Super League, maybe 48. The talk is where Oklahoma State would fall. Have you heard anything on this being pushed by Big TV? Tulsa World had an article. I've heard talk like that about Super Conference and stuff. To be honest, and maybe this is just me being 47 years old, but I really liked it the way it was. Maybe this is an answer to get things a little bit more uniform, but I hate the Big Ten and what it looks like now, like with USC and UCLA and, all these teams having to go all the way across the country back and forth. I thought Musselman is always good for something like that, but he made a good point about having to travel, to wherever, Piscataway or something, and you're there for 4 days, and then you come back to play Ohio State, who, by the way, is already there. Is already in LA because they're doing their 4-game deal there. I thought that was pretty wild to think about. I would, if I was a recruit, you'd have to pay a lot of money extra for me to go to a former Pac-12 school because they're all playing, not all of them, some of them are in the Big 12, but the ones that are playing ACC or Big 10, like, to me, that just sounds awful. Like, this, your college experience is that. That didn't sound good to me. That doesn't sound fun. So, yeah, maybe a 32 or 48 team Super League. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know. All right, everybody. That's it. We've got an hour 20, so a long show today. I want to thank everybody for hopping on. Sorry we weren't able to have Kevin Bohannon here today, but again, he has a family issue that popped up. Thanks to Connor Goodson for hopping on. You're going to want to go to Hog Sports for all your Razorback news coming up because portal season, obviously basketball has been a little slow, but at some point it's going to pick up. It's going to get going again. There's obviously a visitor today with Ewan and maybe some other stuff in the works. And then, of course, football is should be pretty active. I mean, there's going to be players that are on this roster right now that are going to hit the transfer portal, and at least 4, 5, maybe transfer. And there's been like April transfer portal window. There's an opportunity for players to make a good bit of money. So, that's got to be intriguing to some players because, you think it's a little bit more limited. Teams notice through the spring, like, hey, we've got a big need here, defensive end, stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how things unfold, but there should be a decent bit of activity during that 10-day portal window. And of course, that's not just when it shuts off. That's the time that you have to enter the portal. You can also exit the portal, all the way up till, whenever the summer months. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate the guys that hopped on. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for your comments. Leave us a thumbs up, a like, all of those things. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We're also available wherever else you find podcasts. So subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Sign up at Hog Sports for $1 or 50% off for your first year. And support what we do. Appreciate you. All right, we'll be back to you guys soon. We got the red-white game on Saturday. We'll be doing a walk and talk after. That is not televised, by the way. So if you want to check it out, you got to show up in person. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.